Hey, g'day guys, it's Adam from VideoShowMeHow, and if you've been following the channel for a little while, you'll know that we've been up the Cape. We've done the Cape trip, and along the way, we used our Starlink to be able to do all the daily vlogs and a whole bunch of uploads and all of that sort of YouTube stuff. So what I thought I'd do, we're up the Fraser Coast at the moment, and signal is a little patchy, if non-existent. So I thought what I could do would be a bit of a Starlink test. So if you're looking at getting one of these, you're interested in how to set the thing up, what kind of speeds you get, all of that sort of stuff, this is the one for you. We're going to set everything up, we're going to do some speed tests and show you how it all works. So without further ado, let's get started. So we've got our All Powers battery bank here. This is the one we used on the Cape trip, and there is a bit of a video on the channel on this, guys, so you can check that out if you like. That's the one we're using for the moment. Now, I did get a bit of an aftermarket bag because the one that it comes with sort of doesn't really exist. There's a box, so this one's pretty good. I'll make sure I link this one in the video description. There's a ton of different versions that you can get, but I think first step really is to get the thing all set up. So let's do that first. It is pretty self-explanatory. You do have your feet, we have our leg, and then we have, complete with our red Cape dust, all the bits and bobs. So the main item is our router. That's what this guy is, and there is a couple of connections underneath there. This guy is for power, and this guy is the USB-C that runs to the underneath of your dish itself. Now you do have about 4 kilometers worth of cable that it comes with here. So the top tip is to get your long bit first. That guy just goes straight in the bottom there until it locks into place. This end goes underneath our router, just underneath there, can only go in one way. Once you got that connected, you can just get this guy and clip him into place into your base. Can only go in one way, so you swivel him around until it clicks into place like that. And then once you've got that in, you should have, thank God, I still have it, is your power. Now, the thing that you've probably seen online is it is a normal household plug, like you can see here. So that may be problematic. If you've got sort of one of these type of all-in-one units, obviously no issues there because we can just turn on our AC and power the thing up that way. But it is worth bearing in mind that you are going to need some AC to be able to get this guy going. There are DC kits available, so you can do some Googling and plenty of YouTube videos on how to hack these. But today we're going to use it as it's designed. Now from here you can see we're powering up. We're starting to use some watts. And the dish is going to move around here in just a moment. We'll just get this guy all set up here so we can kind of see what's what. We'll get the app fired up here as well because that's effectively how you connect everything. So I'll just set up a bit of screen share on here so you can see. And you can see the dish moves around there, and you can see now it's recognized that we have just turned on and it's starting to do some searching. So we can see that we've got our network device. We're connected to our main router. There's my phone down the bottom here. So that part there is working a-okay. We can see from a power output mode, well, hopefully you can see, we're using 43 watts there now on our power bank as it's starting to power up. It's saying it's still offline, and generally pretty quickly, it should normally flick over, depending on sort of where you're at, what kind of signal, what's in the way, that kind of thing. Today should be pretty good because we have no obstructions, so we should be picking it up relatively quickly. I did notice on the Cape trip, we were getting, and there you go, you can see it's just flicked over to online. I did notice on the Cape trip, it would sort of take about that long, so I don't know what that is, it's probably about a minute or so to get sort of the start connection, and you'll see that it sort of starts at this like flat version like that, and then it sort of gets you online, but I did notice it's sometimes a little intermittent when it's in that mode. But then after a couple of minutes, and we should hopefully see this in a minute, it will locate itself. And if you're based in certainly the east coast of Australia, and I've tested it from sort of about the Gold Coast area all the way to the top of Australia, it always wanted to point south. Now in our version here, that's down that way. So the dish always wanted to go down that way and face south, and that seemed to get the best signal and the best connection. So it's probably just still range finding there a little bit, but you can see here that we are in fact online at the moment. It is downloading an update as well. There we go, the dish just moved there. So what we might do, so it's looking, and there we go. So we're pointing south, so there we go. So that took, you know, a good few minutes, but from my experience in using this over that sort of 4-week period, doing the Cape trip, that's about about set. It would always go at about that angle, and from here, it's pretty well rock solid from there. I did find that sometimes it would want to sort of carry on a little bit and would move around, but once it got to kind of that angle, it wouldn't move from there. And I'd normally find I had the most stable connection when it was set up just like that. So if we do a bit of a speed test here so we can see what's going on. Before we do, a bit of a status update on how much power. That was really important to me on the trip. We're using about the 40 to 50 watts. So worth bearing that in mind when you are running this, depending on what your power needs are. But if we flick on over to the app, you can get some network statistics, like you can see their uptime, how much your throughput is, that kind of thing, your latency. You can see there at 40 milliseconds, that is pretty tip top. If we do a speed test, we'll just run this here now. So we can see we're only getting about the 50. We're ramping up a little bit. Yeah, about 50, 60, that's unusual. Up the Cape I was getting about 180, which was pretty dang good. Upload speed seemed about normal. I was getting sort of between 10 and 20. So definitely a little bit slower here today, but you can see there's our latency there as well at 38. So for anyone, if you're a little bit new, don't really know what the millisecond, the latency thing is, that is basically how long it takes to get the signal from here, or rather there, your router, to beam it from there all the way up to the satellite and back down to the server and then back. It's kind of like your round trip time. So 38 milliseconds compared to your home internet, that's about on par, which is amazing to me that these space internets can do that, but that's about on par. So that's going to be important if you are doing things like voice chat, that kind of thing. If you're doing a video call to someone, that kind of thing, if you don't have a solid connection or that latency figure is well up into the hundreds, sort of 300, 400, 500, you'll notice some delay when you're talking to the other person. 38, you're not going to notice any delay. That's as good as your internet at home or in the office or at your workplace. Just quickly, the big thing to note is around obstruction. That is definitely a thing. If you are in scrub like this over here, where you've got sort of some trees dotted around, it will still work, I found, but you definitely would need to get a little bit of blue sky. And if you lined up where south was, if you've got a watch that's got your north, compass bearings and that kind of thing, speak English, Adam, or you can even do it on your phone. That was really helpful, I found, because I basically look for south, and then because you've got 4,000 kilometers of cable there, you could sort of run it out. It would definitely get to the other dune way over there. You'd sort of put it out, find that little spot that was sort of heading in the right direction, and I'd sort of plonk it down and wait for it to do this thing where it gets into the angle.
Hey guys, Future Adam here. So it was at about this point that the microphones on the camera setup decided to pack it in and stop working. And of course, I didn't realize until I sat down to start editing this video. So you're gonna have to put up with Future Adam. Basically what I was saying here was around obstructions, and for most things, when you're just browsing the internet and doing all the regular sort of streaming and all that sort of jazz, you won't notice any difference if you're having any of those little micro dropouts when you do have a little bit of obstructions. If you are using applications like WhatsApp or any voice and video, so sort of FaceTime type deal or making phone calls, if you are getting those little micro dropouts because you are sort of in a obstructed area, a bit of bush scrub, some trees, that sort of jazz, you will notice that more than anything else, where the phone call will sort of drop out a little bit or your video will drop out a little bit every now and again. But if you got clear skies, it's honestly as good as your internet at home. We had stacks of other people, like we had almost double digits of people connected to this Starlink when we were on the Cape trip, and there was no want for extra speed. We were all cooking along, no problem at all. And you've got that unlimited connection as well. So overall, it works really well. So overall, final thoughts for the Starlink. Space internets, what a world we live in. It is pretty awesome to have this thing out on the trails and in, remote areas where you have no internet or any hope of having any sort of signal. You can pull this sucker out, and within a couple of minutes, like you saw earlier in the video, you just need a power source to have the thing plugged into, like you can see here that we're using, and away you go. It will fire up, talk to all the satellites, do all the beaming and the interneting, and away you go. You've got signal like you would at home, which is pretty cool. We use this for our emergency contact stuff on the Cape trip as well, rather than a sat phone. These things still are more expensive than your home internet costs, but if you've got the mobile version, the fact that you can take it around anywhere and literally have broadband speed internet anywhere, it is pretty flash. Hopefully this gave you a little bit more information around that setup, what it looks like, how it works, what kind of speeds you can expect, certainly on the east coast of Australia, like you've seen in all the testing that I've done. Let me know what you think in the video description down below. Is this something that you would consider taking on a trip if you needed to make sure you still had a connection, stuff like work, that sort of jazz? Maybe you just love your Netflix and you can't go without. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. So that's all for this one, guys. As always, I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers, guys.